Hey guys, I hope that you guys are doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. I'm so grateful that you guys are listening to me, talking about my channel, sharing it with your friends, commenting, subscribing, all of that good stuff. I really appreciate the support. I still have a little bit of a cold, so I hope it doesn't bother you if I start hacking and coughing away like a crazy person. Just warning you in case it happens. I do have a lozenge in my mouth, so if you see something like that, they're like, what is that in her mouth? It's just a lozenge. It's just a fisherman's friend, or strepsils if you want to call it. So in this video, I wanted to speak to you guys about a question that Lily, I think her name is, I forget now, not Lily, sorry, Sophie. I'm so terrible. Sophie asked me on Instagram. So she's been following my podcast and she's been listening to it, and then she asked me a question about guessing other people's type. And she wondered what the accuracy of that was, if as an INFJ or as a person in general, you're sitting there and you're guessing someone else's type. You just met them and you're like, okay, who is this person? What are they all about? And so you guess who they are, just based on those four little numbers. You're like, okay, this is what they are, what they're inclined to be. And that's just a guess, obviously. They might turn out to be completely different. But you are guessing as soon as you meet someone, as an INFJ, as an individual, as a person who cares about the MBTI or Enneagram or whatever your thing might be, astrology, a lot of people will end up trying to guess what the other person is all about, right? I know that happens a lot with astrological signs. People will be like, oh, so are you a Leo? Or, are you a Capricorn? And I'm like, no, I'm not. But a lot of people like to do that. We like to think that we know what the person is all about when they're in front of us. As an INFJ, I feel like our accuracy rate is a little bit higher, maybe 80% there. With most people, it might be like at 60% or 55%, which is as good as like just guessing 50-50. But for us, we have a little bit more of an accuracy, more of a chance of guessing right, because we are INFJs and we use our intuition, our introverted intuition rather than our sensing. So I sit there and someone new comes into my life, which happens very rarely. It does happen. I do go out in the real world and I do meet new people. I try to. But new people come into my life very rarely. But if they do, I want to know, who are they? What are they all about? How am I supposed to interact with them? And so these are the first few things I kind of observe in that person in order to guess what their type is. And as I've been doing this for a long time, 3 or 4 years now, I'm pretty good at guessing what someone's type is. They'll come up to me and they'll guess what their type is, and then I always ask. I'm like, oh, Seb, do you know about MBTI? Are you intelligent enough to know about it? No, I'm just kidding. Do you know about MBTI? And they'll be like, sometimes they'll be like, yeah, I know about it, and this is my type. And I'll be like, yes, you are one of my people. Or they'll be like, no, I've never heard of it. I'm like, oh God. And then so I'll be like, do you mind taking the test? And I know it's terrible. I know it's terrible of me to even ask that question to a stranger just off the street. But I want to know who they are. And I know that'll help them as well. It's not just for me. It's for them as well, right? And so a lot of people actually thank me after. They're like, oh, I've never even heard of this test. And I'm reading the description and it really is me. And I'm learning so much about myself. And I'm like, all right, cool. So it worked out well. And I learned a lot about them as well, right? So that's usually what happens, is that either they know about it and they know their type, or they don't know about it and I make them take the test. I don't force them, but most people are pretty open to these ideas and they're interested in themselves as well. Everyone wants to know more about themselves. So they end up taking the test. And a lot of them actually just pull out their phone right away and they'll just start taking the test right in front of me. And I'm like, okay, cool. I guess we're doing this, which is great. So I love that. I love those people a lot because they're like just so open to it. And then I'll start, obviously, as they're doing this, I'll start observing them. What are they all about? The first thing I really want to know about a person when I first meet them is if they're a thinker or a feeler. That's my priority, actually. More so than extrovert, introvert, because that can be confused. Thinker and feeler is something that's really predominant, at least for me, when I meet someone. That's something I really care about. Because I want to know if I'm supposed to be using thinking words or feeling words when I'm speaking to this individual. So if it's a thinker, like my sister, she's an INTJ, I can't be talking about my feelings all the time. I can't be like, tra-la-la-la-la, I felt like this yesterday, I feel so happy, I feel so grateful, I'm in the clouds, I'm in the mountains, I'm at all this stuff will just go over her head, and it'll make her actually she'll be a little turned off by it, right? She'll be like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Please stop talking like that. Now, she's my sister, so she can say that to me. But if it's a new person, they're not going to say that to me. They're just going to stop talking to me. And perhaps that's fine if you want to do that to that person, if you don't like them and if you don't want them in your life anymore. Cool. Get out of my life. Cool. But mostly you want to keep them in your life for a little bit longer. So I usually try to use feeling words with feeling people and thinking words with thinking people, right? And as an INFJ, it is possible for us to be both. We're 50-50. We have our feet in both worlds. Yes, we're feelers, but we are also the most logical of feelers, which means that we have logicality in us as well, the rationality in us, and we can be thinking if you want us to be. Right? We're chameleons, we can be whatever you want us to be. And so, as I said, I'll use thinking words with thinking people. I think we should be doing this because statistically, blah, 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 blah. I'm making up stuff here, but this is usually how I'd talk to a thinker. And feeler, I'll just talk as I normally do. I love this. I'm so excited. Look at the clouds. They're zooming past us. They're saying hello to us. Look at the bee, things like that. And so that's the first thing I usually care about. And so usually pretty quickly you can figure out if it's a thinker or a feeler. It's pretty easy to sense what they're really all about. And you can tell that by the words they use or by the way they look at the world. You can ask them a couple of questions about what they think about, perhaps you could talk about, what do you think about global warming? And instantaneously you're going to know what they are, because if they're a thinker, they're going to start talking about the stats of it. And 50% of people don't believe that global warming exists, and I can't believe that that's the case, etc., etc. The feeler is usually going to talk about the fact that, I saw this video yesterday in which an orangutan was beating up a tractor or a bulldozer that was trying to kill his tree, etc., etc. That's pretty much a feeler. They're feeling into the fact that they feel for that orangutan that's obviously fighting the person who's breaking down his house. So that's very easy. You can figure that out pretty quickly, as I said. The second thing that I want to usually find out is if they're a P or a J. Now that I want to do because it's easy for me to figure out how to schedule my next meeting with them if I want to meet them again, or how they schedule things in general. Now, of course, it's very easy for me now to gauge if he or she's a P or not, because instantaneously I get all these clues, right? For example, I recently met up with this person and she pulled up her bag, or she obviously had this huge backpack, this handbag filled with stuff. And she was looking for something. And she pulled this bag, put it on the table, and started taking things out. Now, it's also a female thing. We have so much stuff in our handbag. But for me, I know exactly where all my stuff is in my bag. Even though I have a lot of stuff in it, I know exactly where I placed it. For her, she took out every single item in her bag to figure out where this particular item was. And there's a lot of stuff in there that I'm sure she was not using. There's a pair of scissors. I'm like, why are you carrying scissors around with you? There's a pair of nail cutters. And then there were all of these balloons from a party that she'd been. It was just a mad hodgepodge of madness, right? So it was just, if she's a P, she's obviously not a bad thing, but she's just not organized. She doesn't care about that stuff. She doesn't care about organizing her life because her mind is the one that's organized. Whereas for us, as I've done a video on this previously, for J's, we are organized in our lives, in our external lives, but our minds are chaotic. And so it's very easy to gauge if it's a P or a J. And with a P, I know how to schedule them in. For my P friends, I'll actually be like, all right, so are you free on Friday, or are you free today or tomorrow? Because P's can't really schedule way far in advance, a week or two in advance. Not really a good idea with them. It's usually a good idea to schedule them in a day or two in advance. So I'll message my friend in the morning. So are you free today? If by chance, which is very rare because they're very spontaneous and they always have a lot of stuff going on. If by chance she's free, I'll be like, all right, cool. How about tonight we go to this place? I'll make reservations. We can meet there at 5:30 p.m. and we can hang out for a couple of hours, and then you can go and do all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I'll actually lay it down for her properly. And she'll be like, all right, cool, yeah, let's do that. And it's funny because I'll still confirm with her an hour or two before. I'm like, so are you still on for 5:30 today, blah, blah. And a lot of times, I just had that conversation in the morning with her. I just talked to her and told her we're meeting up today. And then she's like, it's today? We're meeting up today? I thought we were meeting up Wednesday. Today's Wednesday? And I was like, no, and it's usually the way the conversation runs, but I'm used to it now, right? And that's one of the reasons I want to know if it's a P or a J, because I want to know how to interact with them. With a J, I won't really think too much about these kind of things because they're organized as well and they'll be able to deal with all of my organizational skills. But with a P, you really have to tiptoe around them a little bit. You have to kind of like, you're treating them like children, basically, not in a negative way, but you know that you're gonna have to be the one who organizes everything. If I want to hang out with my P friends, I have to make it happen, right? And then the last thing I care about is the extroverted introverted thing. I really don't usually care about the intuitive sensing thing because for some reason I really have no sensors in my life. I'm sure there are some that are acquaintances or colleagues, people that I don't really interact with much, but automatically the universe or myself or my aura, whatever it might be, just automatically puts a lot of intuitives in my life and no sensors. I think I have one sensor who's a cousin brother who I hang out with because he hangs out with me, because of your family, right? But besides that, I don't know any sensors at all. And so I really don't even think about it. Most of the people that I meet, I assume are intuitives. That's just the way I think of it. And an extrovert, introvert, I think it's pretty easy. And also it doesn't really matter to me if a person's extroverted or introverted. It really doesn't matter. You can tell instantaneously. But also it can be a mistake because I come across as extroverted. A lot of people message me saying that, you're not an INFJ, you're extrovert. I'm like, okay, great, thank you for that. But I come across as an extrovert, and I'm like, I am not extrovert at all. I'm the furthest away thing from it. I spend all my time in this room. If you know me at all, you know that I'm not an extrovert. And so I usually don't even care about the fact if they're extrovert or introvert. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't mind either one. I have lots of friends from both parties, so who cares? So that's the way I usually kind of gauge someone when I meet them first. It seems very calculated, but I really it happens automatically. I'm not sitting there kind of making a checklist and doing a pros and cons list or things like that. I'm not really doing it very much methodically. It just happens automatically in my head. I'll be talking to them and I'll be making assumptions and judgments as J's do. And instantaneously, as if by magic, I'll have this 4 letters in my head. I'm like, oh, cool, you're an ENTP. Now, of course, I might be wrong. It hasn't happened very often in the past few months because I've been getting better and better at it. But in the beginning, I used to make mistakes all the time. So if this is something you're interested in, just practice with it. Practice with it and then ask them. Think about what their type could be. I think they are an ENFP. And then ask them, what's your MBTI type? And that way you're going to be able to fix your mistakes and course correct and get better and better at it. And that's what the whole point is, to learn more about the world, learn more about yourself in the world, learn more about the people that hang out with you, learn more about your circle, learn about the environment in general. That's just what life is about, I think, at least. Hopefully this helped. Hopefully my voice isn't too annoying and my hacking and coughing isn't too annoying either. Again, if you guys have any questions at all, please message me anytime. I'm obviously here. Message me by emailing me rather than anything else. If you have a question, then message me by email. If you just want to talk, then obviously Facebook is fine. But if you're going to message me a question, please message me on email because it's the best way to answer a question. It's the easiest way to answer a question is by email. All right. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.